The recruiter said you'd be discovering the Indies. Riches, spices, adventure. You imagined golden palaces, elephants, maybe even some dancing girls. What you got instead is a creaking, leaking, rat-infested coffin called the Santa Maria, and a front row seat to the slow unraveling of your sanity. It started innocently enough. Some Genoese man named Cristoforo Colombo swore he knew a faster way to Asia. He seemed confident. Too confident, really. Like the kind of man who insists he doesn't need a map because he feels north. But Spain said yes, and now here you are. The ship is smaller than you thought, much smaller. The sleeping quarters are just ropes. You sleep on ropes, above pigs, next to men who sweat, belch, and scratch themselves through every God-forsaken night. There's no privacy, no mattress, and absolutely no ventilation. The air smells like salt, vomit, and Pedro's feet. You hate Pedro? You also hate that you've seen the same horizon for weeks. Water, sky, no land, no birds. Just occasional floating seaweed that makes the men cheer like children. The excitement is short-lived. The boredom is not. And the food, if you can call it that, salted pork so tough it could break teeth. Hardtack infested with weevils. Soup made from boiled leather. The best thing you've eaten in days was a fish that jumped on deck by accident. And you still had to fight 3 guys for it. Your job? Climb the rigging, scrub the deck, bail water, pull ropes, more ropes, always ropes. Your hands are blistered, your back aches, and you've started to name the splinters in your fingers just to feel less alone. Columbus walks around like he's already Emperor of Asia. His coat is cleaner than everyone else's. Somehow, he always smells slightly better, too. You think it's because he gets first pick of the rainwater before it goes moldy. You haven't seen land in over a month. Some men whisper about falling off the edge of the earth. Others have started praying constantly. Pedro just mutters to a carved spoon he keeps in his shirt. You try not to make eye contact. You thought you'd be famous, a hero, a man who'd return to Spain with silk robes and a personal camel. Instead, your legs are sunburned, your teeth ache, and your last bowel movement was 3 days ago. You're starting to think that if you do find India, you'll just lie down and die on the beach. Still, tomorrow's another day. Maybe the ocean will be kinder. Maybe a breeze will bring a sign. Or maybe Pedro will finally fall overboard. There are about 40 of you. I'll give or take the ones who've stopped speaking or moving much. You know maybe 10 names, but you know every smell. Salt from the sea, smoke from the galley fire, and body odor, a mix so potent it should be used as a weapon. Your bunkmates are the same every night. Alonso, who picks his toenails with a fish bone, old Juan, who hasn't blinked in days, and, of course, Pedro. Pedro is a walking storm cloud of farts, snoring, and deeply personal monologues about goats. You once caught him talking in his sleep to a rotting orange. He called it Captain. No one has bathed in weeks. The sea's right there, but if you jump in, you might not come back. So instead, everyone just stews in their own flavor. Shirts stick to backs. Pants stick to everything else. You've given up on socks. The cook is a man named Ruiz. He's missing an eye, 3 teeth, and most of his sense of mercy. If you complain about the food, he spits in your bowl. And somehow, it makes it taste better. There's camaraderie, of course. Nothing brings men together like shared suffering and mutual hatred for the officer who woke you up at dawn to scrape barnacles off the hull. You sing shanties. You gamble with lice. You pretend that mold is seasoning. Still, it's hard to bond when everyone's on edge. A wrong word can earn you a slap, a wrong glance, a knife, and everyone has a knife, or at least a stick sharpened out of boredom and spite. You miss land, you miss trees, you miss a meal that doesn't crunch when it shouldn't. But you've started to feel something like affection for your crew. Even Pedro, in his repulsive, persistent way, is company. Familiarity, a reminder that you're not alone. That, and he once punched a seagull for trying to steal your biscuit. You'll never forget that. Tomorrow, Columbus says, we'll change course. Which is encouraging until you realize that means he has no idea where we are. You wake up with something wet in your ear. It might be seawater. It might be Pedro drooling in his sleep again. Either way, it's not the worst thing that's happened to you this week. The smell hits first, every morning, before the sun rises, before your eyes open. Your nose reminds you that you're still trapped in a floating barrel of sweat, fish guts, mildew, and man. The scent of death is subtle, but ever-present. A couple of weeks ago, you swore you smelled a corpse under the crates near the galley. Turns out, it was just a fish someone forgot to salt. It had achieved sentience and was considering a mutiny. Everything stinks. The ropes stink. The sails stink. Your socks could peel paint off a wall, if walls existed on ships. The only thing that smells remotely natural is the ocean itself. And even then, it's just the smell of things dying somewhere far below you. You try to get used to it, you stop noticing, until a breeze comes along and stirs the air like a spoon in a pot of man stew. It curls your nose hairs, makes your eyes water. You once saw Alonso cry during one of these gusts. He claimed it was homesickness. Everyone knew better. Fish is everywhere. You eat it, you step on it, you smell it even in your dreams. One time, you found a sardine in your boot. You hadn't had sardines in a week. You're not sure if it crawled in or if someone put it there as a joke. Either way, you wore it for 3 hours before noticing. The galley has a barrel of dried cod that everyone pretends is still edible. Ruiz says the maggots add texture. You've learned to chew with your eyes closed. You dream of bread, real bread, warm, fluffy, fresh from the oven bread. Instead, you get ship biscuits so hard it could double as a weapon. Old Juan actually used one to fend off a seagull. The seagull won. The captain, of course, is immune to it all. He walks around sniffing the air like a man on a Sunday stroll through orange groves. You wonder if his nose is broken or if he just doesn't care. Still, the ocean stretches out endlessly. Beautiful, in its own vast and soul-crushing way. At sunset, the sky turns orange and pink, and for a moment, you forget where you are. You almost think it's worth it. Almost. Then Pedro farts in his sleep again. Let's get one thing clear. There is no toilet on this ship, no chamber pot, no wooden seat, not even a polite hole in a plank. When nature calls, you answer over the edge and hope to God the sea's calm and your grip is strong. At first, you were shy about it. You waited until nightfall, scoped out the quietest part of the deck, made sure Pedro wasn't watching. That lasted 2 days. Now, you just drop your pants and go, because modesty dies quicker than digestion out here. The technique is precarious. You crouch near the rail, pants halfway down, one hand clutching rope or wood, the other holding whatever dignity you still possess. One slip, and you're not just embarrassed, you're shock bait. At least 2 men have vanished that way. One might have jumped, the other sneezed at the wrong time. The more experienced sailors have their favorite spots. Starboard in the morning, port in the evening, the leeward side if it's windy. You learn that lesson quickly. Aim wrong, and the wind does the rest. Worse still is the timing. There's no schedule. If you're on watch or clinging to the mast during a storm and suddenly feel the urge, well, you improvise. Old Juan once went in a bucket and tossed it overboard like a man watering his garden. He's not allowed near the cooking barrels anymore. And then there's the smell. It mingles with everything else, sweat, fish, old salt pork, until your nose gives up entirely. You'd think being surrounded by ocean would help. It doesn't. The ship is like a sock that's never been washed, just dunked in dirty water over and over again. Still, there's something weirdly humbling about it, a reminder that no matter who you are, king, cook, or cabin boy, everyone ends up squatting over the sea, hoping not to fall in. Columbus, of course, has a personal bucket. Rumor says his even has a lid. You try not to think about that. Tonight, the sky is clear. The moon is high. You sit on the edge, pants around your ankles, ocean glittering below, stars blinking overhead, and wonder how this is the same expedition that was supposed to make you rich. At least the stars don't judge. There's nothing quite like standing barefoot on a wet, slippery deck during a howling storm, knowing your job is to climb 40 feet into the sky on a wooden pole that's swaying like a drunk priest during confession. The mast, your personal nemesis, looms above you like an angry god. Columbus points upward. "Fix the sail," he says, like it's as easy as hanging laundry. You try to tell him the wind is literally trying to rip your skin off. He just blinks and walks away. You tie a rope around your waist, kiss whatever charm your grandmother gave you, and start the climb. First rung, slippery. Second rung, even worse. Third rung, someone left fish guts here. Of course they did. Your hands grip wet wood. Your feet scramble for purchase. Every gust of wind threatens to snap your spine. Behind you, the sea rages like it has a grudge. You can't hear anything over the crashing waves and the flapping sails, except for Pedro shouting, "Don't die, I have your blanket." Halfway up, you regret every life choice that brought you here. You could have been a baker, or a shepherd, or literally anyone who doesn't dangle from a pole like laundry in a hurricane. At the top, the sail flaps like a demon. You lash it down, fingers numb, muscles burning. One slip, and it's over. The sea waits for you with open arms and zero sympathy. You stay there a moment, high above the chaos, rain on your face, wind in your ears, and a strange kind of peace. Terrifying, yes, but peaceful, like you've accepted your fate. Then lightning strikes nearby, and you remember you're basically hugging a giant wet lightning rod. You slide down fast, too fast. You hit the deck with a thud and a scream you'll deny later. Pedro claps. "You didn't die," he says, beaming. Small victories. You were promised adventure. You were promised gold, exotic lands, and spices. What you weren't told is that your main diet would consist of hardtack, salt pork, and despair, usually served cold. Breakfast, if you're lucky, a crust of bread hard enough to chip a tooth. Lunch, salted meat that smells like regret and tastes like old rope. Dinner, a broth made from things you'd rather not identify, garnished with a generous helping of just close your eyes and chew. The bread, ship's biscuit as they call it, is older than some of the crew. You bang it on the table to test if it's edible. If it doesn't break the table, you eat it. If it moves, you don't ask questions. You just hope it's protein. Salt pork is a culinary offense. It's meat in the loosest sense of the word, so heavily salted it could be used to mummify pharaohs. Sometimes it comes with a side of worms. Pedro calls those the crunchy bits. You avoid eating near Pedro. Fresh food? Gone after the first week. Fruits? A memory. Vegetables? A fantasy. Anything green now is either mold or seaweed, and you're not sure which is worse. The cook, Ruiz, insists on boiling everything, including the thing that should never be boiled, like boots and nails. You think he's conducting a private war against flavor, and yet you eat because hunger wins. Always. You've watched men lick the inside of empty barrels. You've seen fights over crumbs. You once found an onion peel in the bilge water and almost cried. One guy claims to have brought cheese. He guards it like treasure. You'd trade your boots for a sniff. When you dream, it's of feasts. Roast chicken, fresh bread, cheese that doesn't crawl. Then you wake up, bite into your biscuit, and find a beetle staring back at you. It blinks. You eat it anyway. Time means nothing anymore. No clocks, no calendars, just the relentless swing of the sun and the groaning of the ship. You count days by beard growth, bread mold, and how many times Pedro has tried to wrestle the ship's cat. 3. The cat is winning. It's around day 14 when things really start to crack. Alonso, once a fairly normal man, has taken to whispering to a coconut. He's named it Isabella. She listens well, he says. You nod politely and move on, because Alonso's got a knife, and you don't want to be next. People are twitchier now, suspicious. You can feel the tension like a taut rope underfoot. Every creak of wood sounds like doom. Every shadow on the water becomes a sea monster. Or worse, another week of empty ocean. Old Juan hasn't spoken in 3 days, just stares at the horizon, blinking slowly like he's buffering. Even Columbus looks nervous, though he hides it behind big speeches and bigger gestures. "We are close," he says. "I feel it in the air." You're pretty sure what he feels is just humidity and collective madness. Pedro, of course, is thriving. He's taken to wearing a rope as a belt and a fish scale as a necklace. He offered to read your fortune using rat bones. You declined, politely. At night, the crew gathers less to sing and more to mutter. Little clumps of whispers, rumors of turning back, murmurs of mutiny. You try not to listen, but you hear enough. You lie awake staring at the stars, wondering if they're judging you or laughing. In the dark, Alonso pets Isabella and hums a lullaby. You're not sure who's crazier, Alonso or you, for thinking she blinked. Land, the idea of it. Dirt that doesn't move. Trees that don't creak. Food that doesn't stare back at you. You'd give anything for the smell of cow manure and overripe apples. Anything that isn't salt, sweat, or seaweed. You start fantasizing about grass. Not gold, not spices, just grass. Cool, green, unbending, underfoot. You dream of lying down in a field, the sun on your face, bees buzzing somewhere in the distance. Then Pedro snores and ruins it. The ocean stretches on forever and ever. Blue, gray, blue. Repeat. No birds, no ships, no sign that humans were ever meant to be out here. You start to feel like the world ended behind you, and you're just drifting into leftovers. You miss the feel of ground beneath your boots, the steadiness, the resistance. You even miss stairs, actual stairs, not ladders smeared with fish guts. You miss walls that don't move and roofs that don't leak. But the sea does not miss you. It spits salt in your eyes, soaks your boots, mocks your balance. It reminds you every minute that you are not welcome, not built for this, not long for this life. Your muscles ache in places you didn't know existed. Your skin is burnt on one side, moldy on the other. Your spine has learned to sway with the boat. And you worry that if you do find land, you'll walk like a drunk goat forever. At this point, even mutiny is starting to sound like a vacation. Still, you keep looking at the horizon, hoping for a change, a shadow, a shape, anything. But all you get is more ocean. And the sound of Alonso telling Isabella about his childhood. Columbus struts around the deck like a man who's just invented the sun. Every day he points at the sky, draws invisible lines in the air, and mutters something about currents and longitude. You're not sure he knows what those words mean. You're pretty sure he's making them up. He always looked busy, important, like the ocean personally requested his presence. He's constantly fiddling with maps, even though they're mostly just blank spaces with the word India scribbled somewhere near the edge. You've asked where exactly he thinks you are. He smiles and says, "Close." You've heard that for weeks. The crew is beginning to grumble, quietly at first, then louder. Alonso has declared the coconut to be more trustworthy than Columbus. Pedro started a betting pool on which direction the captain will pick next. You put a piece of moldy biscuit on anywhere but the right one. Some nights, Columbus gathers everyone for a motivational speech. He climbs the steps, lifts his arms dramatically, and announces that glory awaits just beyond the next sunrise. You clap because it's expected. Then you go below deck and scream into your shirt. You've seen the same clouds for days, the same wave that looks like a dog, the same seaweed patch that now has a name, Antonio. If Columbus is right, India is very good at hiding. Sometimes you wonder if this was the plan all along. If he just wanted to get lost, claim he discovered something, and hope the king is too polite to question the route. He calls it an expedition. You call it a slow, damp spiral into madness. Still, you sail on. Every night, someone looks up and says, "The stars will guide us." You want to believe them. Really, you do. But all you see are dots, cold, distant, and completely uninterested in your survival. Columbus, of course, claims he can read them. He holds up an astrolabe, squints dramatically, and announces, "We are on course," which is a bold statement considering you're surrounded by water in every direction and haven't seen land since Pedro stopped bathing. That was at least 3 weeks ago. Navigation is a mystery wrapped in a headache. There's something called dead reckoning, which sounds appropriately fatal. There's also latitude, which you pretend to understand. Longitude? That's witchcraft. Even Columbus doesn't talk about it much, probably because it doesn't exist yet. At night, the officers squabble over charts lit by lanterns. By day, they squint at the sun and mumble things like east, southeast-ish. It's not encouraging. One sailor tried to chart the voyage using only pigeon bones and sea foam. Honestly, his results weren't worse than Columbus's. You stare at the constellations, trying to find comfort. The North Star is supposed to be your friend, but it just sits there, smug and silent. Orion used to look heroic. Now he looks like he's laughing at you. You tried to learn, asked questions, got scolded for touching the compass. You're back to guessing direction based on which side of the boat the rats are running from. Still, every morning you check the horizon. Still nothing. The stars don't lie. But they also don't explain why you smell like mildew and haven't pooped right in a week. There's a new sound on the ship, the unmistakable clatter of teeth hitting the deck, not from a fight, just falling out. It started quietly, bleeding gums, a few odd bruises. Then someone's leg swelled up like a sack of wet flour, and suddenly the word scurvy was being whispered like it was cursed. You didn't pay attention at first. You thought scurvy was just a pirate thing. Turns out it's an everyone on this boat thing. No one knows the science, but everyone knows it's bad. No citrus, no vegetables, no mercy. Your body rebels. It's like your insides are staging a mutiny of their own. You look around and see the signs. Sunken eyes, yellowed teeth, if they're still there. Sailors who limp for no reason other than existing. Even Pedro's coconut, Isabella, is starting to look pale. Someone claims Columbus has a stash of lemons. He denies it, smiling with a mouthful of suspiciously perfect teeth. You try not to stab him with a spoon. The worst part? No cure, not on the ship. Ruiz, the cook, tried to make a vitamin broth using seawater and boiled rat bones. It made 3 men cry and 1 man speak fluent Latin for 10 minutes. You chew hardtack until your jaw clicks. You dream of oranges the way others dream of lovers. Round, bright, sweet, not crawling with mold. One guy insists sucking nails helps. Another guy licks the mast every morning for tree energy. At this point, nothing seems that crazy. You try to stay positive. But when your gums bleed just from sneezing, you start wondering what else might fall off. Scurvy doesn't shout. It whispers, and then it takes pieces of you, one by one. At first, you think it's a hallucination, just another shape in the sky, your brain turned into something familiar to keep you sane. But then Alonso yells, not a mutiny yell or a Pedro set something on fire yell, a different yell, a hopeful one. You follow his finger and see it, a bird, a real, flapping, non-imaginary. Definitely not Isabella the coconut bird. Circling above the mast, wings wide, free as anything. It's small, probably a turn or go, but to the crew, it's a miracle with feathers. Men drop buckets, spoons. One guy drops to his knees and starts praying. Another kisses a piece of hardtack and throws it overboard as an offering. You just stand there, stunned, mute, heart pounding. It's been weeks since you saw something alive that wasn't mold or Pedro. This bird, this tiny squawking symbol, means one thing. Land is near. You can feel the shift, not just in the air, but in the crew. Postures straighten, faces lift, people hug without biting. Even Columbus seems slightly more tolerable, though that might be because he's not talking at the moment. Pedro names the bird Jorge and says he once had a parrot with the same energy. No one questions him. For the rest of the day, sailors take turns staring at the sky, looking for more birds like their prophets, reading omens. Alonso offers to build a shrine out of fish bones. Ruiz quietly roasts something he claims was always in the barrel. You choose to believe him. Hope is dangerous out here. It rises too fast and falls harder, but still, a bird. You go to bed that night thinking maybe, just maybe, you won't die on this floating death box after all. Thirst is a funny thing. It starts as a dryness in your throat. Then it moves behind your eyes. Then your dreams. You dream of fountains, streams, rain. The clink of ice in a cup, though you've never actually seen ice in your life. The barrels of fresh water were bad enough on day one. Now they're more soup than drink. Floating things, growing things, things that wave when you tilt the barrel. Ruiz says it adds flavor. You say Ruiz should be tried for war crimes. So you drink wine. Yes, the wine's gone off. It's warm, sour, and makes your stomach twitch. But it doesn't have worms, usually, and it's better than water that smells like Pedro's socks. You try to ration it. Just a sip here, a sip there. But thirst doesn't care about rules, especially when someone drops a bucket and spills half a day's allowance into the bilge. No one says who did it. Everyone suspects Pedro. Columbus, naturally, has his own private stash. He sips from a silver cup and talks about endurance, while everyone else licks moisture from the inside of their shirts. One sailor tried to rig a rain catcher. It worked, once. Then Alonso used it to bathe Isabella. It hasn't worked since. Desperate men do strange things. You've seen sailors drink seawater, then hallucinate conversations with God. You've seen someone wring moisture out of fish. Ruiz once suggested urine distillation. You stopped asking him questions after that. Every creek in the sky, every cloud on the horizon, it's all just hope for a storm, not to sink the ship. Just enough rain to soak your tongue. At night, your lips crack. Your dreams taste like dust. You wake up thinking you drank something. You didn't. Tomorrow, you'll try again. Or you'll just chew a worm and pretend it's soup. It starts with a whisper, one man to another in the shadow of the mainsail, then a glance, then silence when someone walks by. You pretend not to hear, but you hear mutiny, a word heavy with risk and soaked in desperation, the kind of word that gets you tossed overboard if you say it too loud, or promoted if enough men agree. The crew is unraveling. Too many days at sea, too many promises of land, too many lectures from Columbus about divine purpose and destiny, while you're chewing on a biscuit that smells like feet. You see it in their eyes, cracked, red, and suspicious. Men flinch when someone reaches into a coat too fast. Everyone's got a knife now. Even Alonso's coconut Isabella has a sharp stick tied to it. You don't ask. It's not just the sailors. Even some of the officers are twitchy, tired of pretending the map isn't blank, tired of watching Columbus squint at stars and act like they personally told him just a few more days. Someone suggests turning back. Someone else suggests turning Columbus into fish food. Pedro suggests both in that order, followed by, and then we throw Ruiz in for flavor. No one laughs. You don't speak, but your silence speaks volumes. You're not leading this, but you're not stopping it either. You want to be loyal. You do. But loyalty hasn't given you land, or food, or a reason not to punch Columbus in the neck. Still, mutiny is dangerous. If you fail, it's the noose, or worse. If you succeed, what then? You still have no idea where you are. Who steers the ship? Pedro? God help us. The ocean listens. It always listens. But it never answers. The decision hasn't been made. Not yet. But tonight, a knife gets sharpened louder than usual, and no one stops it. It happens at dusk. The sun is bleeding into the sea, and the crew is gathered like tired shadows on the deck. Everyone's filthy. Everyone's starving. Everyone's this close to stabbing someone with a spoon. Columbus steps up onto a crate like he's addressing the royal court. He clears his throat. The men groan. "Brothers," he begins, "mistake number one, calling this mess of lice, salt, and mutiny brothers. Mistake number two, smiling while doing it." "I know spirits are low," he says, ignoring the man vomiting behind him. "But we are closer than ever." That's his whole pitch. Closer than ever. Pedro actually raises his hand. Closer than yesterday, or just generally closer in a cosmic, meaningless sense? Columbus doesn't answer. He starts talking about destiny. How the Queen of Spain believes in him. How God believes in him. How the stars are aligning. You stare at his boots and wonder if he knows that most of the crew believes in his eventual drowning. He unrolls a map. Blank. He points at nothing. He speaks in riddles. You hear the word Indies 3 times and almost there 5. It's like watching a man build a house out of fog. A few sailors nod. A few cross their arms. Alonso clutches Isabella tighter. You wait for something solid. A plan, a number, a timeline. Instead you get, "We sail forward," because forward is fate. Someone coughs, and it sounds a lot like, "Idiot?" Columbus steps down. No cheers, no mutiny either. Not yet. Just silence. Heavy, tired silence. A man balancing on the edge of his command and a crew too exhausted to shove him off. For now. You go to sleep that night thinking not about land, but about how fast you could reach the lifeboat if things got ugly. It happens just after dawn. You're leaning on the railing, trying to remember what your mother's voice sounded like, when a silver blur explodes out of the sea and slaps you right across the face. A fish, a flying fish. It ricochets off your forehead, flops once on the deck, and dies with dignity. Pedro screams, not in fear, but in joy. "Lunch!" he yells, scooping it up like it's made of gold. The crew gathers, not because they've never seen fish, but because this one chose to join them. Voluntarily, it feels like a sign, a slippery, smelly sign. It's the most exciting thing that's happened in days, possibly weeks. Men take turns patting you on the back, as if you summoned it with your face. Alonso insists it was destiny. Ruiz declares it a holy fish. Someone starts drawing a picture of it on the mast. You're bleeding slightly, but no one notices or cares. The fish is measured, admired, debated. Pedro suggests naming it. You suggest eating it. That night, the entire crew gets one bite. It tastes like victory in saltwater and maybe a little bit of rope. But no one complains. Even Columbus smiles, though he insists it was an omen of continued success. Ruiz tries to save the bones for soup. Someone punches him. The mood lifts, briefly. It's not land, it's not water, it's not hope. But it's something. You fall asleep wondering what else the sea might throw at you, and secretly hoping it's bread. It starts as a dream, a bakery, warm, glowing, heavenly. Loaves rise in ovens, golden and perfect. You see your mother holding a fresh round of bread, steam curling into the air. She offers it to you. You reach for it, hands trembling, and then you wake up, mouth full of wool, blanket soaked, Pedro staring at you. "You okay?" he asked. You're not. You never will be. The craving for bread has become an obsession. You've tried convincing yourself the ship's biscuits are bread. They're not. They're more closely related to fossils. You've tried soaking them in wine, in seawater, even in your own tears. Nothing helps. Your jaw aches from chewing. Your gums bleed. Your soul cries out for something soft, something warm. Instead, Ruiz hands you another square of regret and calls it breakfast. Alonso says he remembers what bread tastes like. He describes it with such clarity that half the crew starts crying. Even Isabella the coconut looks emotional. Pedro swears he once dated a baker's daughter. No one believes him, but we all pretend. You find yourself daydreaming about crumbs. Crumbs. You would murder for a crust. You would sell your boots for a stale heel. You would kiss Ruiz on the mouth if he could produce a single bread roll. One sailor tried to bake something using crushed biscuit, fish oil, and leftover stew. It exploded. He called it progress. You start to understand madness. Real, deep, flower-starved madness. When someone yells, "Land!" from the crow's nest, you don't think of safety. You think, maybe it has bread. You hope it does. It starts with the sky turning the color of old bruises. Then the wind shifts, sharp, fast, angry. Someone yells, "Storm!" and everything becomes motion and shouting and pure wet chaos. The sails snap like thunderclaps. The mast groans. The ocean rises like it has a score to settle, and you, poor, tired, breadless you, are suddenly reminded that this ship is just a glorified barrel held together by curses and hope. The crew scrambles, ropes tangle, buckets roll. Alonso drops Isabella, and we all silently mourn. Ruiz lashes himself to a beam with the seriousness of a man who's done this before and didn't enjoy it. And then Pedro flies past you, not walks, not runs, flies. 1 second he's there laughing at the clouds, and the next, the wind lifts him like a sack of laundry and launches him clean over the rail. You scream. Everyone does. Not because we liked Pedro, though in a strange, itchy way we did, but because we all know it could have been any of us. Someone throws a rope, someone else prays, and just when you think he's gone forever, a hand appears, gripping the side, then another. Pedro hauls himself back aboard, soaked, coughing, and holding a dead fish. No one else was using it. He wheezes. The storm rages. A sail tears clean off. One of the barrels smashes loose and takes out half the galley. Ruiz swears with the force of a man who's lost a pot he'd grown emotionally attached to. You tie yourself to the railing and hang on. Salt stings your eyes. Your teeth rattle. The sea pounds like it wants in. For hours you endure, and then, as suddenly as it came, it's gone. Silence. Water everywhere. Sails limp. Crew scattered. Pedro coughs and holds up the fish. Dinner? It starts as a shape, low, dark, barely there. You blink, rub your eyes, stare harder. It's still there. Land! Someone screams. Could be Pedro, could be you. Doesn't matter. The word ricochets through the ship like lightning through dry hay. Feet stampede, eyes squint, hands shade, brows hardened by weeks of sunburn. And there it is, on the horizon, land, or a really stubborn cloud pretending to be land. But no one cares anymore. The crew erupts, grown men cry, someone kisses the deck. Alonso hugs 3 people and then drops to his knees to apologize to Isabella for doubting her. Ruiz breaks open a wine barrel he was saving for retirement. You laugh, loud, wild, uncontrolled. It spills out of you like seawater from a cracked hull. You haven't laughed in so long it feels like a new emotion. Columbus appears, windswept and glowing. "I told you," he shouts, arms raised like a victorious prophet. "The Indies!" You squint the shoreline. Palm trees, birds, sand, no silks, no spices, definitely no elephants. Pedro leans over. Doesn't look very Indian. You nod. But it's land. Real, unmoving, sweet-smelling land. You can almost feel the dirt under your feet, the bugs in your hair, the plants you'll probably be allergic to. Heaven. The ship adjusts course, sails creak, men cheer, Alonso faints. You don't even care if it's the right land. You'd settle for a big floating rock as long as it had shade and didn't smell like men. You try not to cry. You fail. You expected angels, trumpets, maybe a rainbow. Instead, the moment your boots hit land, you're met with heat. Heavy, wet, inescapable heat. It hits you like a wool blanket soaked in soup and slapped across your face. You haven't even taken 5 steps and you're already sweating through places you didn't know had pores. The jungle looms, dense, green, loud. You thought birds chirped. These birds scream. Somewhere in the trees, something howls. Pedro whispers, "That was either a monkey or a demon. Either way, I don't like it." The ground is soft, but not in a good way. It swallows your feet. Mosquitoes rise in swarms, immediately declaring you their personal buffet. One bites your eyelid. Another crawls up your nose. Alonso swats at the air like he's fighting invisible ghosts. Columbus strides ahead like he's discovered Eden. "Magnificent!" he shouts, arms wide, dripping in sweat. "The gateway to the Indies." You stare at the tree in front of you. It has 3 ants the size of grapes climbing it. They seem angry. The locals, yes, there are people, watch from a distance. They look calm, clean, slightly confused, probably wondering why 50 half-mad Europeans just staggered off a boat, yelling about kings and spices. Pedro waves. "Do you have bread?" They do not respond. Ruiz tries to set up a cooking station and is immediately bitten on the shin by something neither plant nor animal. He screams and falls into a bush. The bush screams back. You expected paradise. What you got is a humid, buzzing, itchy mystery filled with unknown noises and Columbus talking way too loud. Still, it's land. It's not moving. It has trees. It might even have fruit, though one sailor tried to eat a purple berry and now thinks he's a pelican. You breathe deep, regret it instantly. The first meeting is awkward. Columbus approaches like he's greeting royalty. Chin up, chest out. He bows, flourishes, and speaks Latin. Loudly, with hand gestures. Very dramatic, very incomprehensible. The locals just stare, then look at each other, then stare again. You stand behind Columbus, clutching a stick, smiling nervously. Alonso offers a seashell as a gift. Pedro waves his fish necklace. Ruiz is still trying to light a fire using what might be poisonous bark. The native leader, or at least the one wearing the most feathers, steps forward and says something in a calm, steady voice. It sounds polite. It sounds very much like, "Who are you sweaty idiots and why are you shouting?" Columbus responds with more Latin, then Spanish, then louder Spanish, then a speech about the Queen of Castile. No one is impressed. The locals offer fruit, glorious, colorful, fresh fruit. You nearly cry. Alonso actually does. Pedro bites into something yellow and immediately goes cross-eyed with joy. Things calm. Kind of. You sit in a clearing. They bring more food. You try to bring gifts, which is mostly beads, broken buttons, and one very enthusiastic sailor with a flute. The locals nod politely and keep their distance. Communication is hand signs, laughter, and a lot of guessing. Someone draws a boat in the sand. Someone else draws a pig. Someone draws what might be a map. Columbus interprets all of it as, yes, this is India. You're not sure what's happening. but at least you're not on the boat. Still, there's a tension, a slowness in their eyes. They're watching, measuring, judging, which, to be fair, so are you. You came expecting conquest, or glory, or gold. Instead, you're sitting barefoot, sunburned, bug-bitten, eating fruit from a stranger's hand, and wondering how you're going to explain any of this to your mother. Columbus gathers everyone at dawn. His boots are freshly polished. His coat is the cleanest thing for 100 miles. He clears his throat dramatically. This, he declares, is India. You look around. You see jungle, birds the size of goats, fruit you've never tasted, people who definitely aren't wearing saris or turbans, no camels, no spices, no elephants, just trees and humidity, and one very confused parrot. Pedro raises his hand. Sir, what part of India is this exactly? Columbus glares. The western part. You're pretty sure he made that up. He unfurls a map, one of the few not soaked in seawater or chewed by rats. It has a drawing of a giant dragon in one corner. He points at a vague smudge. We are here? Ruiz squints. Wasn't that smudge over the ocean? Details, says Columbus. The crew mostly nods, not because they believe him, but because they're too tired to argue. Alonso shrugs and starts weaving something with palm fronds. Pedro finds a coconut and starts carving a tiny crown for it. You're not convinced. India, you think, should smell like spices. This place smells like mildew, fish, and the faint regret of colonial ambition. The locals are friendly, patient, and deeply puzzled by your captain's insistence. One of them points at Columbus and says something that sounds suspiciously like delusional. You pretend not to hear. Still, you write it down. Because someday someone will ask, where did Columbus land? And you'll say, according to him, India. According to everyone else, we have no idea. They hand you a flag, red, gold, crisp, somehow not stained or torn like everything else you've touched for the last 2 months. Columbus wants it planted with dignity. You're still chewing a leaf you're not sure was food. But here you are, marching up a hill behind a man who hasn't bathed since Castile, about to declare ownership of land that already has people on it. The ceremony is brief, awkward, and mostly Columbus yelling things in Latin. He waves his arms. He shouts about Queen Isabella. He calls the place San Salvador. No one checks if it already has a name. The crew watches, swaying in the heat. Alonso salutes with his coconut. Pedro takes the opportunity to nap in the shade. Ruiz is too busy trying to keep ants out of his soup pot to notice you plant the flag. The pole sinks into the soft earth. Columbus places a hand on your shoulder. You have served Spain well, he says, deeply serious. You want to say, I'm from Portugal. Instead, you nod. The locals watch from the trees, still calm, still silent. One of them scratches his head as if thinking, do they do this every time they go somewhere new? After the ceremony, Columbus insists on drawing a map of the island. He asks you to stand in the middle and look discoverer-ish. You hold a stick and try not to fall over from dehydration. Later, back at the beach, someone carves the Queen's name into a palm tree. Someone else carves a heart next to it. Someone else eats the bark. The flag flutters in the breeze, official, confident, completely disconnected from the chaos it presides over. You stare at it and think, I helped raise that. Then you think, what now? The island is beautiful. In the same way a lion is beautiful, right before it mauls you. You step into the jungle thinking you'll find fruit, maybe some gold, maybe a nice flower to press into a journal. What you find is a swarm of insects the size of coins, a snake that hisses like it's judging you, and a plant that stabs you just for existing. You turn to Pedro. He's covered in welts and smiling. It's just nature saying hello. Nature's rude. Alonso's been stung 3 times and bitten twice. One bite made his lips swell so much he now whistles when he breathes. Ruiz tried to catch a lizard for soup and got chased by something small, furry, and unreasonably fast. Every leaf has thorns. Every tree drips sap that smells like punishment. The fruit, gorgeous, until you bite it and your tongue goes numb. Columbus insists it's a delicacy. Columbus has also never eaten anything he's picked himself. At night, the jungle sings, screeches, rustles. Once something growled from a tree. No one went near that tree again. You now sleep with a stick under your hammock and a rock in your fist, just in case. The ocean was cruel, yes, but it was honest. It didn't pretend to be paradise. This place, it seduces you with green and gold and warmth, then sends ants into your boots. The locals, of course, move through the jungle like it's a gentle breeze, barefoot, calm, not even sweating. One of them saw you flinch at a beetle and offered you a leaf. You still don't know if it was medicine or mockery. You came seeking glory. You found itchy bites, digestive confusion, and a new fear of colorful frog. Gold, that's what they promised. That's what every sailor signed up for. Rivers of it, mountains, necklaces heavy enough to snap your spine with wealth. Columbus said it would be everywhere, hanging from trees, buried in soft sand, worn by generous locals eager to trade it for beads and buttons. So far, the only thing you've found in abundance is mosquitoes. They swarm with purpose, with hatred, with a buzzing soundtrack to every miserable chore you've slapped your arms raw. Pedro built a mask out of palm fronds. Alonso just cries and lets them feed, whispering, "Take what you want." Columbus insists the gold is just beyond that hill, always just beyond that hill. You've gone over 10 hills now. Still no gold, just more trees, more bugs, and at one point, a crab that hissed. You've seen golden things, a leaf that gleamed in the sun, a snake with a glittering back. Pedro once found something shiny in the river, screamed, "I'm rich," and then realized it was just a bottle cap from Ruiz's stew pot. Ruiz says he once saw a nugget the size of a walnut. No one believes him, mostly because he also believes yelling at coconuts makes them boil faster. The locals smile when asked about gold. They nod, gesture vaguely, and sometimes point in a random direction. It's unclear if they don't understand or if they think watching you stumble through the jungle is hilarious. Your clothes are torn, your legs are bleeding, your soul is tired. You dream of treasure, yes, but at this point, you'd trade all of Spain's future silver for a pillow and 6 uninterrupted hours of sleep. The mosquitoes, of course, never sleep. You can't tell who's worse off. The ones curled up under palm leaves, sweating through fevers, or the ones talking to trees. Scurvy, sunstroke, parasites, mystery rashes. Take your pick. Ruiz sneezed so hard yesterday he passed out. Alonso hasn't blinked in 2 days. Pedro insists the jungle is whispering his name. No one argues. There's a man, you forgot his name, who now refuses to walk forward, only backward. Claims it confuses the evil spirits. You don't even flinch anymore when someone screams during the night. If it's not deadly, it's probably just a crab in someone's pants. Columbus? Still fine, still giving speeches, still convinced you're in India. He walks among the wreckage of human sanity like a proud rooster in a yard full of broken eggs. You try to keep busy, build things, fetch water, help carry the sick. But every day, fewer men are standing, and the ones who are start muttering things about the sea, about going home, about building a raft out of palm logs and wishful thinking. The jungle is not kind. It welcomes you with color and life, then quietly eats away your reason, your appetite, your ability to tell dream from reality. Pedro tried to cook a stone yesterday, claimed it smelled like onion. Someone drew a map in the sand. It was just a spiral. The locals keep their distance. They watch. They offer herbs, which help. You think, or maybe they just taste like distraction. You're exhausted, dirty, covered in bites, mentally duct taped together. And tomorrow, Columbus wants to explore another island. The day finally comes. Columbus stands before the tattered remains of his crew, cape flapping dramatically in the breeze, and announces, "We return to Spain." No one cheers. A few people groan. Pedro tries to clap but forgets how. The ships, or what's left of them, are patched, lashed, and held together with desperation. You stare at the Santa Maria and wonder if the planks are being held in place by termites, just politely not letting go yet. Still, you pack. You load barrels. You untangle ropes. Alonso kisses the ground. Ruiz says goodbye to a bush. Everyone is a little sun-damaged and emotionally misshapen. But home is a word that still means something. You set sail, and the sea greets you like a bad joke. Waves, immediate, relentless, not huge, just annoying. Like the ocean saying, "Oh, you thought I missed you?" Wind, wrong direction. Sails, fighting back. Deck, slippery. Pedro falls, twice. The water barrels are already suspect. The biscuits are softer, but only because of mold. Someone brought a chicken. No one knows how. Ruiz won't stop humming. You're back in the rhythm of it. Barely sleeping, always damp. Chewing things that crunch when they shouldn't. Except now you also carry the memory of land, of stillness, of trees and shade and fruit that didn't try to kill you. And that makes it worse. The men are quieter, tired in a way that goes beyond muscles, eyes glassy, jokes thin. The coconut crown Pedro made for Isabella now sits on the prow like a figurehead. You don't ask questions, but the skies open, the stars return, and even if the sea laughs, you laugh back. Weakly, but on your way home. It's months later. The sea has tossed you, dried you, soaked you, and spit you back out. Your boots are mostly holes. Your shirt is more idea than fabric. Your beard is a sentient creature with its own goals. But land is ahead. Real land. Spain. You stand at the rail, too tired to cheer. Your hands grip the wood not for balance, but to remind yourself this isn't a fever dream. This is real. You made it. Somehow. Dock workers gape as you arrive. You must look like a band of shipwrecked ghosts. Pedro waves. Ruiz weeps openly. Alonso kisses the dock and then licks it. Again, no one asks. You walk through town in silence. People stop and stare. Children hide. A dog barks and runs away. When you reach your village, your mother opens the door, squints, and says, "Can I help you?" You smile, or try to. "It's me," you rasp. She squints harder. You were taller. I'm hunched now. Your hair was brown. It still is in somewhere. She pulls you into a hug anyway. You smell like mildew and fame. People gather. Word spreads. You were on that voyage, the one with Columbus, the one where they discovered something. You're a hero now, or close enough. You sit by a fire for the first time in forever. You eat bread, real soft, warm bread. You cry into it. You're home. And yet, when the wind blows just right and the stars peek through the clouds, you still feel the sway of the ship beneath your feet. And you wonder if Pedro's okay. Banners fly, bells ring, nobles throw banquets with fruit you haven't tasted in years. People chant Columbus's name like he parted the sea and personally carried them across. He rides through the streets like a golden god on horseback, beard trimmed, cape perfect, eyes shining with victory. You march behind him with the rest of the crew, sun-bleached, bug-bitten, limping like props. He gives speeches about discovery, about courage, about destiny. He says nothing about Mosquitoes' rot or Pedro's fish stew. The court loves him. The queen smiles. The king nods. They give him titles, gold, a coat of arms. You get bread and applause, but mostly bread. You stand in the back of the hall while Columbus talks about his brave crew, like he didn't nearly get thrown overboard 5 times, like he didn't insist a fish was an omen while half the ship vomited from storm sickness. He calls it the New World. You call it a near-death experience with exotic birds and long-term trauma. Pedro calls it pretty nice once you get past the snakes. Pedro has a strange definition of nice. At the tavern, people ask questions. Was it amazing? Did you see gold? What's Columbus really like? You say he's lucky. Because he is lucky to be alive, lucky his guesses didn't kill everyone, lucky that when he opened his mouth, people listened, lucky that no one else is telling your version of the story. You don't hate him. Not exactly. You just know he wouldn't have made it without 50 men bleeding behind him, pretending to believe. And you were one of them. You get asked the question all the time now. Would you do it again? At first, you laugh. Loudly, bitterly. You remember the storm, the hunger, the fish slapping your face, and Ruiz trying to stew a rope because he thought it smelled edible. You remember the coconut wars, the scurvy, the weird berry that made Pedro speak in rhymes for 2 days. But over time, your answer softens, because something happened out there, something strange and terrible and oddly beautiful. You saw the edge of the world, not the literal one, but the edge of comfort, of reason, of your own mind. And you didn't fall off. You came back stronger, thinner, yes, paler, yes, possibly haunted, but stronger. There's a quiet pride in knowing you survived it, in knowing you helped make history, even if your name won't appear in the books, and even if Columbus will take the credit at the statues. You remember the sea at sunrise, the stars, so clear, you could feel them breathing, the first step onto new land, the first bite of fresh fruit, the way it felt to laugh after not laughing for weeks. Would you do it again? Maybe, but not with Pedro. Pedro still visits. He brings you strange gifts. A feather, a chunk of driftwood, a mango, he insists, is magical. He talks about joining the next voyage. He wants you to come. You look at the horizon, smile, and say, "Let me think about it." And somewhere, deep down, you know you probably will. Because once the sea touches you, it never really lets go.